welcome to BSR TV for the iRacing British Touring Car Championship rounds 13, 14 and 15 from Okayama. You're joined by me, Chris Cohen, in the commentary box alongside Matt Dalton. Evening, Matt.
Evening, Chris. Evening, everybody.
And we missed the last week, unfortunately. We didn't have any coverage last week, so apologies to everyone who tuned in expecting it and you didn't get anything last week. Entirely our fault for not having any stuff available, but we're back this week for 3 rounds from the full Okayama circuit after a 30-minute qualifying session. Cars already out on track for qualifying. We'll pick up on that in just a little bit, but I think first we'd better have a quick look and see how the championship is getting on. And the standings at the top, Chepalevsky has the title at the moment. Still a lot of rounds to go, Matt, but Katz is second place, only 13 points behind, so it's anyone's game at the moment between Chepalevsky and Katz. Field's third, a much improved Simon Field over last season. Wild fourth, Dan Hunt is very well in 5th place, and Terry is in 6th, and Craig Burleson is the highest placed CQR driver in 7th, and Hristo Ublev, a man we had a lot to talk about last time at Summit Point, is in 8th place, and he wasn't your favourite person at Summit Point.
No, I wouldn't say he wasn't my favourite, but he had some issues, let's just say that. And,
but he's still scoring the points, so he's still getting the finishes in there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's what this championship's all about. And we've already seen the top 2 guys there are the guys who really have finished every race and finished in good position, and everybody else behind them is kind of handing it to them on a plate at the moment.
Robert Fagg is in 9th place, and Julian Janowski is in 10th. To run down the first page of standings. Second page then, 11th place, Ellis Stevens. So the championship winner last season is only managing 11th at the moment. Is that a surprise for you?
Yeah, it is. Ellis has had more issues than usual, certainly, and normally he's we always sort of say about Ellis having Teflon coating, but this season he's really struggled and seems to have been caught out in other people's incidents all over the place.
And we'll come back and look at that in a little bit, but just running down the second page there, Mark Fletcher for Airwaves is in 12th place. We haven't had much to say about Mark, which is probably a good thing in terms of being quiet in the commentary box, but he's plugging away. Burnett is 13th, McGarity 14th, Ashley Sutton after only 3 races is already up to 15th place there. Laura Bond is 16th, Jerome Kaiser shares 17th with Steve Hefford, Nick McCarron in 19th there, Steve Richardson rounding out the top 20. But just coming onto the third page here, one of the things I wanted to point out here is that 25th place, we currently have 5 drivers sharing that 25th place, so anyone could really take that position. Ignacio Pinello is someone who hasn't really featured. He's only been in 2 races this season, but he was quite prominent last season, and those other guys there, they're all equally able to take the points and sort of steal that lower position. But it just goes to show, doesn't it, the competition's still hot even though it's way down in the 20s.
Yeah, it's a hugely contested series, and I think we pretty much expected that this year from last. The number of guys at the back there who probably haven't run every single round, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're out of it just yet.
And down in 30th place there, Chris Shaw. And some reduced numbers for this week, so not quite as many drivers out there warming up and qualifying at the moment, but we'll see what happens when we get to the first race and then subsequently a few more, because the pit's quite big. So Okayama full circuit, so we've got potential to have 43 drivers in here. We probably won't get there this week.
No, looks like numbers are down a little bit this week. I think that's perhaps because the greatest commentary team in the world weren't there last week, but
well, yeah, that could have something to do with it, but let's not blow our own trumpets too much.
No.
So, coming back to Ellis Stevens then, he won last season's championship in dramatic style at the very end of the season, but he's not doing so well this season, and I wanted to quickly look at the reasons why. Season 2, if you take the first 12 races from Season 2, he actually finished in the top 5 in 10 out of those 12 races. So just about every single race he was there in the top 5. But this season, he's only managed 3 top 5 finishes, and he hasn't actually won a race up to this point in the season.
Yeah, no, and that's the consistency that we were talking about. Just hasn't quite been there this year, and I'll be honest, I'm not entirely sure the reasons behind that, but I do know he's had a couple of incidents that he's been caught in other people's wrecks in the starts, and perhaps just the luck that he had last year has deserted him a little.
And just looking at the results graph there, I mean, you can see the green represents last season. Some really good results and a win as well. And this season, as you say, more incidents, bigger fields perhaps.
Yeah, bigger fields, and also perhaps I think it's fair to say that the competition and the level of quality in the field is probably higher this season than last, so that may be having an effect as well.
Yeah, and it's worth pointing out though that he was the champion last season, but after 12 rounds he'd only won a single race, and it's not just about getting the race wins, is it?
No, absolutely. It's so the thirds and fourth places that you have to fight for from bad starts can be probably more important than the wins.
And even Formula One seasons have been won by those who have just won the single race.
I think Formula One, touring car, and all other formats that's the way it works, and especially with the third race reverse grids that we have in this series. The guys who can be consistent are the ones who are going to challenge towards the end of the championship.
Well, let's go now to the track and have a look to see how the drivers are getting on during this qualifying session. That's the first 8 minutes out of the way. And get some positions up for you. As you just watched Steve Richardson for eBay Motors going around, currently in 12th place, Steve. Chapalewski setting the fastest time of the session so far, a 1:34.5. No real surprise there for you?
No surprises there. Certainly not.
And Robert Fagg is in second place. Katz is in third, but we know Katz is a hard battler, so he'll be wanting to get higher up than that. But in the practice session, Sutton was quick as well.
Yeah, Ashley's another one of the guys who's recently come over to iRacing from Forza, and again is making a bit of a statement. He certainly seems to have the pace in the last couple of weeks. He's been getting quicker and quicker, so I think it's probably fair to say it's not a surprise to see him up there.
And it's a very tight, twisty circuit in places. I mean, you've got all those really tight sort of hairpin bends that you can see Sutton's just coming through 2 of those now. There are some fast stretches though. You kind of stretch the legs on this car, aren't there?
Yeah, there's a couple of sort of I think you'd probably call them medium distance straights. I don't think you're certainly not going to pick up a draft, probably not in this series. But the start straight and certainly the back straight going in towards the 2 hairpins are the probably main overtaking opportunities.
And we see Sutton now coming over the line for a hot lap. Let's just follow him around the track here as he gets a nice tight line into the first right-hander, which is a kind of medium right-hander, into quite a fast left-hander here. You just want to stop the car understeering right off into the gravel on the right-hand side. And then it's almost a non-2 corners there. I don't think they really count as corners. And then down into the first of the tight corners with a very unusual uphill exit. You want to keep it as tight as possible here, and then on the power down the main straight, so decent exit is quite important. He's got a nice clean run up in front of him. Might see some drafting down this straight. It's not the longest straight in the world. Hard on the brakes down into turn 5, the hairpin. Just gets it a little bit wide on the entrance, but keeps it nice and tight. Almost straight away then into the downhill left-hander, 90-degree left-hander, and then another 90-degree left-hander straight afterwards. It's very, very easy on that downhill stretch to just let the car slip away from you as well. And then into the first of these left-right, almost hairpin bends, and he's got that other car up in front of him now. Get in the way. He's not going to be able to get through there. That car really should have been getting out of the way at that sort of speed, but never mind, and he's bailed out of the lap there, and he's going to carry on.
Possibly a little bit of games there. I'm not sure Stellion really was going to give him too much room. I think these guys quite like, as we've witnessed before, these guys in this series quite like to wind each other up a little bit.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the results that we've seen from the previous races is that with these increased fields and with the inability of the drivers to keep it clean on the first lap, we've actually got some race stewards involved in this series now, and anyone who is found to be causing an accident on the first lap will be subject to a grid penalty. Squashed.
Yeah, squashed by the banhammer. Yeah, John Richardson has kindly decided to step in and assist with the stewarding for the racing. So these guys have been warned that anybody causing incidents or driving recklessly is going to cop some punishment.
And just a very strange pit exit from one of the RCIB cars behind Stephen Efford there as we watch him come out of the pits. Yuasa Racing. He's down in 17th place in the championship at the moment, but the important thing to remember is it's very hotly contested, isn't it, at the top?
Yeah, I mean, like as we were saying earlier, the top 3 or 4 guys in this series have been really a standout from everybody else. I think that's probably the one thing that's caught me a bit by surprise this season, is that instead of 7 or 8 winners like we were having last season, there's 3 or 4 guys who've really taken charge of it and dominated.
And do you think that's diminished the series in any way?
No, not at all. I mean, the guys behind are still having great fun, and they're still tripping each other up, and if they can get in front of the quicker guys, as we've seen in previous rounds, they can cause them all sorts of grief. So it's just a case of getting a little bit of fortune and taking the opportunities.
And you're talking about legitimate grief rather than sort of crashing people off the circuit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can lean on people. It's a bit of a contact sport, so there's the occasional tap from the behind is not necessarily a bad thing.
As we're just watching Tarek Islam go round here, he's a new entry this week, so people still joining the championship, even though, and he's gone a little bit wide there, just keeps it off the tyre wall there and will stay in one piece for now. But it is one of those series where you can just sort of pick it up at any point. It's participation for fun, not for any kind of monetary gain or anything like that, so open to all skill levels as well.
Yeah.
And we're just going to have a look a little bit further down. Simon, a little bit further up, should I say, at Simon Topper, who's in 18th place at the moment, 137. So a 137 lap is about 2.5 seconds off the top of the field. And it's still not near the back, though, because we've got 27 in this session now, so 18th. It's a decent starting position, but it's going to be challenging, isn't it, into that first corner, because the temptation is to sort of sneak your way in front, dive down the inside. You might not have the room to do it.
Yeah, and well, this is where it'll be interesting to see the impact that John has from the steward's position, because as we've seen in previous weeks, the first corner can be a bit of a lottery, so it'll be interesting to see if these guys take warn of the impending banhammer, or if they choose to take a risk and let the sword of Damocles hang above their head.
And the other thing we should point out is that, as Simon's just coming in the pits there, that wasn't a hot lap for him at all. But the other thing we should point out really is that the incident limit this week is actually 9. So if you get to 9 incidents, then you will be instantly disqualified from the race.
Yeah. Don't really know what you can say to that one. 9 incidents. I think perhaps that's okay. Other tracks, Brands Hatch, for example, you pick up a lot of what you call incidents for obviously small off tracks and things like that. Here, really, the last corner onto the start-finish straight is the only time you're going to pick up an off-track penalty, so 9 should be manageable, you would hope.
I mean, we do have a 10-lap race here, so if you're racing clean, sorry, I beg your pardon, it's a 12-lap race. So if you're racing clean, you can afford to go off the track once every. Well, on most of the laps, you can actually get away with going off and not be disqualified.
Yeah, that's correct.
Where you get into real
whether
problems,
these guys,
of course, is the 4Xs from contact.
Yes, and the contact is what they're most seeking to avoid. So you'll only get a 4X from a contact that actually spins somebody off, mind. If it's a little bump or a little nudge, the kind I was talking about earlier, usually that actually doesn't give you an incident point at all. So you should be okay with, you're just trying to give him a little tap and say hello.
It should be very interesting to see how many people finish, and I feel we should explain for non-iRacing players that the incident system is 1 point for going more than 2 wheels off the track. It's 2 points for spinning your car around so that it's facing more than 90 degrees away from the forward direction, and like we were saying, it's 4 points or a 4x for causing an incident which causes someone to spin out, and we're talking about serious contact, not just a gentle rub.
You can also pick up a 4x if you stuff yourself into a barrier and decide to smear yourself all over one of these lovely Okayama walls.
But I think that'll probably be the least of your problems at that sort of stage, but These
Very
guys
true.
do have one instant repair, so when they come into the pits, they will be able to just stop in the pits, the car will be instantly repaired, and they will be able to go back out, but only once during every race.
Yeah, we don't want to make it too easy for them, do we?
Oh, of course, no, I mean, it's a bit more generous than real life, but of course the simulation can be subject to things like lag that can come into play, which might unfairly damage your car or something. So at least there's a way of getting back in, even if and it keeps it fun as well, because no one likes to go out on the first lap and have to sit out the rest of the session. So after about half of the qualifying session, Chepelevsky still on top, 34.405. Sutton has moved to the second place ahead of Fag, and Katz has pushed down to fourth. So Katz is having his work cut out at the moment.
That's a surprise to see Andreas struggling like that. He's normally one of the quicker guys.
I'll just cut to Katz now and just have a look at how he's going around, because he does have, you're right, he does have that clean sort of driving style that we're not too accustomed to see in this series. He's very reluctant to make any contact, very rarely causes any kind of incident himself, and you know, when he does go off, he's got a serious reason for doing it.
Yeah, I think you can see he drives with the cool efficiency of the Germans.
I think that would be quite accurate. It's worth pointing out as well that this series is open to everybody in iRacing, not just those in the UK, although because it's a UK organised series, you tend to get more drivers from the UK than anywhere else. And if you're watching live on Twitch at the moment, you fancy asking us any questions at all about the series, or how to get into it, or what exactly you're seeing on the screen, or if you want us to get in touch with the drivers and ask them any questions, then do put your questions into the chat in Twitch, and we'll do our best to get them across. If you're not, that's just tough, I'm afraid, because you're watching it late on YouTube. 140 for Katz going over the line there, so not really an improvement, but that's probably an outlap, right?
You would think so.
Let's just have a look as he goes around here. Oh, he's mounted the curb there. He's going to lose a bit of time already on that one. And just chipping at his heels, Adam Terry, Simon Field. They're going to be wanting a higher grid spot at Katz's expense if possible, and he keeps it nice and tight into that corner. And really, it's the power down as early as possible to get down that start-finish straight as quickly as possible. And it's not easy to get out that corner, is it? Because it's uphill and there's a long exit.
That's true, and I'm just actually following Andreas in a ghost lap session here, because I'm trying to get a feel for what it's doing. And yeah, it's the cambers and the changes in elevation on this track might not look like much, but they can certainly upset the car.
And if you just listen to his engine as well, on the downshift, he's revving it quite a lot. He uses the engine to actually slow the car down as well. And we've seen him blow an engine before now by doing that. Usually he's a lot more careful than that, though.
Yeah, I mean, we covered the Skip Barber race there earlier this week, and we saw in that a lot of the guys with the Mazda engines were popping them left, right and centre, and I think the heavy braking zones and the heavy braking nature of this track probably hurts the guys who do that.
And it is it's a Korean engine rather than a Japanese engine in these Kias, so let's see what happens as he goes over the line at 134.8.
You would expect that they would be a bit as reliable as a chocolate teapot.
Well, that's a bit harsh on the Koreans, isn't it? But oh, and Katz goes well.
They do come with a 7-year warranty, I believe, don't they?
Well, yeah, exactly. So I'm not sure these cars do, though.
You wouldn't think so.
And that's just put Katz in third position. Sutton is now second, and Fag is still in fourth place. A 140 for Peter Van Gool, so that's probably an outlap from him as well. But let's stay with the Dutchman. He's now driving for DynoJet, who's previously with the Pertec team. He's in 16th place at the moment, so he'll want to improve on that if he can. He's not usually amongst the front runners, Van Gool, who has had some good results in this series so far, and that's the Team Club 44 of Nick McCarron just on the outside there, letting him through. So we'll assume he's on a flying lap from this, and one of the Biancos is just on the left there.
Peter actually turned me over in the Brands Hatch race at the end of last season, so I'd be inclined to say he's certainly not slow.
It's a bit of a grudge there, I sense. You have to take it easy if you
I don't allow such personal matters to affect my racing.
Of course not, no, absolutely. And It's worth pointing out 12 laps for the first race here, 12 laps for the second race, and the third race will be the reverse grid race this evening. So the top 10 finishers will have their grid positions reversed. Pole position will go to whoever finishes 10th in the second race, and that is going to add more incidents and more anticipation, excitement, frustration, Matt?
All of the above, I would suggest.
Definitely. Van Gool taking it easy on that last corner, not risking using any of the curb there, or the runoff area. Legitimate, but dangerous, and he goes across the line, improves his time, so there's a 1:36.0, moves him up to 10th place, so it's a good drive from Van Gool.
Yeah, I think Raz has been doing some practicing in the last few weeks, so he's looking forward to this weekend.
McCarran for Team Club 44. And 1:36.0, he'll want to improve on that a little bit because he's down in 12th place. I say down in 12th place, it's still a very respectable place to be in.
I would suggest that's a pretty good result for Nick.
And we've got 28 entries at the moment. Not sure how many of those will make it to the grid, but as many as possible, I hope. Some faces missing this week though.
Yeah, we do seem to be missing a couple of guys. I think the usual pretenders are still here, though. I mean, the main championship rivals are still all here.
Yeah, they are. I mean, if we think about the top of the championship, Chepelevsky and Wild and Field, Katz, all of those guys, Terry, Hunt, they're all in here. So they're all going to be scoring heavily if they manage to finish higher up, and it'll be easier for them because there's fewer cars to race against.
That's true. I mean, the one guy we are missing is Adecoba Lopez, which is a bit of a shame. He appears to have thrown his toys at the pram and decided not to bother, which is a shame because he's one of the better guys and we do miss him.
Yeah, absolutely. Toys out of the pram might be slightly harsh, I'm not sure, but we got a question from Laxon and the Twitch. Is it possible to enter the championship mid-season, Matt?
Yes, I think the guys open the races up at any time, and you probably won't challenge for a championship victory, but you're certainly welcome to join.
Absolutely, and the way to do it as well is to find one of the threads in the Kia forum, which is open to everybody,
yep,
or the UKNI forum if you happen to be in the UK or Ireland, on iRacing in the member forums, and then you'll just say I want to join, etc. And you'll be added to the league. You need to apply to join the league. So you just
I believe there's also the British Sim Racers Facebook page, isn't there?
There is, yeah. So British Sim Racers on Facebook, and then you can apply to join. So loads of ways to apply to join. And we don't
want to leave anybody out.
Well, exactly. I mean, it's a beginner-friendly series. Beginners, won't be able to come in the top 10, I'd say, probably, but still can have a good time going around nonetheless. And lots of people joining all the time, like this gentleman we're looking at here, Alexander Smolensky, who has joined us, just going from strength to strength with the Speedworks Motorsport team, really. He's done himself proud so far. Very, very quick in the practice session. Not managed to repeat the pace quite as well in the qualifying session, and now just with 5 minutes to go. Laxon's other question is, can we talk about the track on a hot lap? So maybe that's something you can do as we go around with Smolensky.
Yeah, okay. Just give me 1 second to organise myself and make sure I pick the same camera angle as yourself, yeah? I don't want to make sure I'm not rushing to catch up with Smolensky. No pun intended. So we'll pick him up
on turn 2 there.
Just turn 2, yeah. So I'm not sure of the names of all the corners here, you have to forgive me for this, but I know that this corner is obviously a massively important one because it leads on to one of the main opportunities in the for overtaking there is on the track. Usually a second gear corner, some of the guys try and leave it in third and use the engine torque. It's an uphill exit, but it's also slightly cambered, so you can... It's off camber on entry, but pro camber on exit, so you can get the entry right and then push quite hard through the exit. Brake hard down here into the first of these two little niggly hairpins, and this section for me is a little bit Mickey Mouse, but it's first gear through to second gear, again second gear, then through this corner, and this is a tricky little corner because it can bounce you off and launch you out wide. Probably up to third. Yeah, stay in third. Maybe a brief shift into fourth for some of the really quick guys. Smolenski, you're choosing to use second through here. I know some guys do drop it down to first for these two little hairpins, and then this is where you come out towards the start-finish line. This corner here, little lift, probably third gear, and then now short downshift into second, get it turned in, line it up, and then use all the curb and a little bit more on the exit for the start-finish straight.
And thanks for that, Matt. And just coming over the start-finish straight now, Smolenski has done a 1:35.3. He was in 13th. He now moves to 8th place. So he's put him in the top 10.
Lap.
Very good lap indeed. And the top 10, with 3 minutes to go in the qualifying session, Shepelevsky leads from Sutton by a significant margin, really, 4 tenths. And then Katz is just behind in third. Fag is 4th. Field is 5th. Terry 6th. Wild 7th. Smolenski, the newcomer in the top 10, is in 8th. Ander Diaz takes 9th place, and Laura Bond is holding out in 10th. So this must be a favourite track for some of these drivers that are otherwise unaccustomed to being in the top 10.
It's one of these tracks that it's a little bit Marmite. You're either going to love it or you hate it. Personally, it's not one of my favourites. There are sections of it that are okay, but this whole section where Smolenski is again now this just first to second gear, back to maybe up to third briefly, back to second. It's for me, I find it a little bit niggling, a bit boring, but I suppose it certainly closes the racing up.
And I suppose it's worth pointing out in the road racing scene that no one driver is going to like every track, and no one track is going to be liked universally by all drivers, although some more so than others.
Absolutely right. I mean, some guys will prefer the high-speed flow-in tracks, others will prefer the more technical ones like this one, and I know that myself, Brands Hatch is probably one of my favourites, Alton Park another one, so the technical tracks seem to suit me a little bit better, and therefore I prefer them.
And what about the car itself, the Kia? What type of track do you think it suits best?
It's different everywhere. I mean, on the tracks like this will really suit the guys who can control the throttle, because the tight hairpins and things like that, if the guys who can get the car lined up on exit and maintain their speed will really pick up an advantage. The fast flowing tracks, it's a different sort of thing. I mean, it's a front wheel drive car, so whereas some of the rear wheel drive cars and the fast flowing tracks are really gracious and can flow quite nicely, this one is more of a challenge. You have to use the brake a little bit to get it tucked in.
Laura Bond just coming through the final corner then over the line. One of the notable things about her style is the lower engine revs that she's using. She's selected a few of the higher gears there rather than as a contrast to Katz, for example. That's a 135.7, so no improvement. Oh, careful on the brakes there. And there's cars all over the place now. Cars left, cars right. It's one of the tricky bits, isn't it, getting a clean qualifying lap when there's so many cars on track.
Yeah, the second you're in a big series like this, qualifying is always going to be a little bit of an issue. But, in half an hour, they've got plenty of time. They can take their time, find a clean lap and go for it from there. As Laura decides to park up.
Yep. And Piniella, Bond's teammate in the Bianco, has really not found any form this season, has he?
No, he struggled, Ignacio, but again, I think he's perhaps only done one event, if I'm not mistaken.
And only 2 races from that one event as well.
Yeah.
So, consistency
it's hard to find
comes
form
from
if you're not driving.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? And another new entry this week, Nils Jordan. We haven't actually seen him out on the track. He's not out on the track at the moment, but he has. I think Piniella's going to bin this lap. He is indeed.
Looks like he's had enough, yep.
Jordan is in 22nd position at the moment, so not earth-shattering performance, but first entry, not doing too badly. 3 people have not qualified so far, so we might not see them in this session, as the qualifying session officially comes to an end, and the drivers will just finish whatever lap they're on, and be able to anyone that's going over the line now won't get another lap, but anyone that's already on the lap will. And that is Richard Wilde coming over the line at 135.2, just a shade outside his best, so he'll stay in 7th place. Would you be happy with that if you were Richard Wilde, 7th place?
Richard has shown that he's capable of overtaking. I don't think that's going to be too much of a disaster for him.
And last season's runner-up, Adam Terry, is coming down the long back straight to complete his final qualifying lap to see if he can improve on that 6th place that he's got at the moment, but very wide. Just pushing it a little bit too hard on that hairpin, and he won't be. He's probably going to back out of that one now, knowing that that one's no good, unfortunately. Yeah, and he's had it. Ellis Stevens, last season's champion, again fails to find stellar form, but 12th place qualifying, solid result, unless he can improve on it this time round.
Ellis usually always picks up places at the start. You don't very often see him go backwards. I don't see any reason that would be any different this time.
He is known as Teflon Stevens because
he is indeed
to shrug off any other incidents during a race. Wasn't so at Summit Point, doesn't always work, but just a little contrast for you. The different colours on those eBay mirrors can help you identify those cars. Stevens is the one with the red mirrors you can see there. Richardson with the yellow mirrors, and Katz, who has already finished his session, with the green mirrors. Smolensky coming out of the pits. I'm not sure why. He's not going to get. Does he know the session's over?
You would hope so.
Yeah. Well, he's gonna have to drive all the way around now, isn't he? So after the qualifying session, the results are Chepelevsky on pole position by almost a full 4/10. Cat slips into 2nd place. Sutton is 3rd by a fraction, and then Fag and Field are 4th and 5th, and Terry is in 6th place. But
good result for Robert Fag.
Yes, absolutely. It's a brilliant result for Robert Fag. He has shown a lot of pace throughout the season, hasn't he? But it just hasn't come together for him as much as he'd like. We saw some interesting performance from him, a very strong performance from Brands Hatch at the opener, and then it's not really fallen. Like I say, it's not really fallen into place for him. But you never know. Maybe this time.
I think his pace has been best described as sporadic, isn't it? We've seen he can be quick, and we've seen he can overtake. He just tends to be either a little bit reckless or a little bit unlucky. There's a very fine line between the two at the start. It'd be interesting to see what happens in the race.
Well, definitely, and just to explain the way this works for anyone watching on Twitch TV, stay where you are. We'll carry on broadcasting, and for anyone who is here on watching on YouTube, we'll now end the video, and you can move on to the next one to get straight into the racing. So, from me and Matt at PSR TV, thanks for watching the qualifying.